join fighting upon us. لَوْلَا أَخَّرْتَنَا إِلَىٰ أَجْلٍ قَرِيبٍ. Would you have not granted us a respite for a short period, meaning give us more time? قُلْ, O Prophet, tell them, مَتَاعُ الدُّنْيَا قَلِيلٌ. The enjoyment of this world is so short. Eventually you have to return to Allah Azza wa Jal anyway. So why are you running away from death? مَتَاعُ الدُّنْيَا قَلِيلٌ وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لِمَنِ اتَّقَى. And the hereafter is better for those who are conscious of Allah. وَلَا تُظْلَمُونَ فَتِيلًا. And you will not be wronged even as much as a fatil, meaning the thread in the groove of a date stone. أَيْنَمَا تَكُونُوا. Why are you escaping death? Wherever you are, يُدْرِكْكُمُ الْمَوْتُ. Death will overtake you. وَلَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُرُوجٍ مُشَيِّدَةٍ. Even though you are in fortified castles, even if you are in tall buildings, trying to escape the disbelievers that they won't kill you, fine, they won't kill you. Do you think Malakul Maut, the angel of death, when he comes at the time of death, he can't get you? He can't get you. So wherever you are, yudrikkumul maut, death will come to you. وَلَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُرُوجٍ مُشَيِّدَةٍ. Even if you are in tall, high castles, fortified castles. وَإِن تُصِبْهُمْ حَسَنَةٌ. Look at the munafiqeen. If any good befalls them, such as victory, يَقُولُوا هَذِهِ مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. Then they say this is from Allah Azza wa Jalla. They say this has come to the Muslims by chance. وَإِن تُصِبْهُمْ سَيِّئَةٌ. And when evil befalls them, on who? The Muslims, يَقُولُوا هَذِهِ مِنْ عِنْدِكَ. They say, O Muhammad, this is all because of you. You haven't listened to us. If you would have obeyed us, then this calamity wouldn't have come down upon you. Like for example, they said when? In the battle of Uhud. The munafiqeen, they blamed everything on the Muslims and the Prophet ﷺ. They said, O Prophet, because of you, the Muslims have lost the battle. If you would have listened to us, you wouldn't have fought the disbelievers. If you would have followed Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul, do you think you would have lost? No, you wouldn't have lost. This is what the munafiqeen were saying, blaming everything on the Prophet ﷺ. قُلْ, O Prophet, tell them, كُلٌّ مِّنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. Everything comes from Allah. Victory comes from Allah. Defeat also comes from Allah. And when Allah gives defeat, Allah wants to separate the believers from the munafiqeen. This is the reason. فَمَا لِهَؤُلَاءِ الْقَوْمِ. What is wrong with these people? لَا يَكَادُونَ يَفْقَهُونَ حَدِيثًا. That they don't understand this simple thing. مَا أَصَابَكَ مِنْ حَسَنَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. Here is the thing. Whatever comes, whatever good befalls you, فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. It is from Allah. وَمَا أَصَابَكَ مِنْ سَيِّئَةٍ فَمِنْ نَفْسِكَ. And whatever evil befalls you, it is from your own selves. Meaning, even evil, it ultimately comes from Allah Azza wa Jal. Even evil comes from Allah. But you see, when evil comes from Allah, it is a disrespect to say that evil comes from Allah. And this is why in the hadith the Prophet ﷺ said, وَالشَّرُّ لَيْسَ إِلَيْكَ. Evil is not from you, O Allah. And we know evil comes from Allah. مِن شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ. O Allah, from every evil thing that what you have created. Allah is the creator of everything. But because it is a disrespect to say, Oh Allah, you are the creator of evil, or evil comes from you, this is why we don't attribute evil to Allah. Otherwise, in essence, it does come from Allah Azza wa Jal. Rather we say, Oh Allah, because we are sinful, because of our sins, we are going to blame ourselves. So this is the respect that we have to give to Allah Azza wa Jal. So, وَمَا أَصَابَكَ مِنْ سَيِّئَةٍ. And whatever evil befalls you, فَمِنْ نَفْسِكَ. It is because of you. Like in the battle of Uhud, the Muslim, they disobeyed the local commander and the Prophet ﷺ. وَأَرْسَلْنَاكَ. And O Prophet, evil doesn't come because of you. Rather, وَأَرْسَلْنَاكَ. We have sent you لِلنَّاسِ رَسُولًا. As a Rasul for the whole mankind. وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ شَهِيدًا. And now whether people believe in you or they don't, Allah is enough as a witness that you are Allah's messenger. مَن يُطِعِ الرَّسُولِ. Whoever obeys the messenger, فَقَدْ أَطَاعَ اللَّهِ. He has indeed obeyed Allah. وَمَن تَوَلَّى. Whoever turns away, فَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ عَلَيْهِمْ حَفِيظًا. O Prophet, we have not sent you as a God over them. The Prophet ﷺ, his duty is not to force the message on anyone. No, his duty is al-balagh, to convey the message of Allah to the people. If people like it, ahlan wa sahlan. If they don't like it, ma fi mushkil. فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. وَيَقُولُونَ طَاعَةٌ. Now the hypocrites, what do they say? طَاعَةٌ. We obey the Prophet ﷺ, we obey Allah. فَإِذَا بَرَزُوا مِنْ عِنْدِكَ. But as soon as they leave you, O Prophet, your gathering, بَيَّتَ طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْهُمْ غَيْرَ الَّذِي تَقُولُ. Some of them, they plot in secret something other than what you have said. They go against the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims. وَاللَّهُ يَكْتُبُ مَا يُبَيِّتُونَ. Allah is recording everything what they are planning and plotting against the Muslims. فَأَعْرِضْ عَنْهُمْ. O Prophet, ignore them, leave them. They cannot harm you at all. وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Put your trust in Allah. وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ وَكِيلًا. Enough is Allah to put your trust in. This is why a Muslim should never fear any harm from anyone. Why should you fear harm from anyone? Even if something musibat comes down upon you, it came from who? Allah's permission. It was Allah's permission, wasn't it? Even if a person harmed you, it came down after Allah gave him permission. So what should we do? Ahlan wa sahlan. Ar-ridha bil qadr. Be pleased with the qadr of Allah Azza wa Jal. And do shukr Allah. Do shukr and be pleased with Allah and turn to Allah Azza wa Jal. Therefore never fear anything in this world except for Allah. وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Put your trust in Allah. وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ وَكِيلًا. Allah is enough to put your trust in. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Now Allah is telling us, why is it that these munafiqeen, they were praying salah in the front saf, praying behind the Prophet ﷺ, in Masjid al-Nabawi, but the Quran never changed them. Quran never changed them. You know why? أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Because they don't ponder over the Quran. And this is the same reason why the Quran doesn't change us. Because we don't ponder over the Quran. We just read it 100 miles per hour from beginning to end, not realizing what we are reading in our salah. How is the Quran going to change us? Is it going to change us? It doesn't. And this is why the munafiqeen, they will not change, because they were not doing tadabbur of the Quran. When we do tadabbur of the Quran will change us. وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ. Had it been from anyone else besides Allah, لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. They would have found therein many contradictions. وَإِذَا جَاءَهُمْ أَمْرٌ مِنَ الْأَمْنِ. These munafiqeen, if there was a single contradiction, they would be the first ones to make this public. Oh, look at this contradiction in the Quran. Look what the Quran says this, in another place it says that. They would be the first ones to make it public. Why? This is their behavior. وَإِذَا جَاءَهُمْ أَمْرٌ مِنَ الْأَمْنِ أَوِ الْخَوْفِ أَذَاعُوا بِهِ. When they hear any news concerning peace or fear, they go about spreading it. This is a very, very, very important verse. What is the way of the munafiqeen? When they hear some important matter, such as anything to do with security of the Muslims, or anything which would cause harm or fear in the hearts of the Muslims, what do? They go out and spread it and make it public. Without verifying it. Without verifying it to know whether it is really true, this khabar, this news or not. And I'll give you a practical example of this. Many 10-15 years ago when ISIS came out, the scholars did not say anything. Why didn't they say anything? Because they never knew much about ISIS. They were new. They were claiming to be believers, but they never knew what their movements are. So if you were to ask the scholars, they would say, we don't know. And this is what the scholars should say. If they don't know, they should say, we don't know. But who were the people talking? The awam, the public, the ignorant people, without any verifying the information. Oh, these are good people, we should join them. And then they're going to Syria and joining the ISIS. What happened? When the time came when the scholars are telling the people that these people are khawarij, they have nothing to do with deen, nothing to do with Islam, by that time the damage was already done. Allah is saying, if these people وَلَوْ رَدُّهُ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ, had they returned these matters to the Rasul, to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, وَإِلَىٰ أُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْهُمْ, and to those charged with authority, to the scholars would have told you that now we don't know, wait for a bit. And this is the same thing about Taliban, the scholars are saying. If you were to ask the scholar, they say, we don't know. We are patient. And all the people, the awam, the public, they seem to know everything. The scholars are saying we don't know. We have to wait, we have to see whether they are true believers or they are following the footsteps of ISIS. We don't know. So what to do as Muslims, as laymen? Be careful. We should not jump to conclusion and refer these matters to the scholars. Which scholars? Not only Saudi scholars or Indian scholars or Pakistani scholars, the whole scholars of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. See what the scholars are saying about them. See, are they real true believers or not? So these are very important points over here. When any matter comes about fear or security or safety, don't jump to conclusion. Refer these matters to the Ahlul Ilm, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, to the ulamas and the scholars, and they will tell you. وَلَوْ رَدُّوا إِلَى الرَّسُولِ وَإِلَىٰ أُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْهُمْ لَعَلِمَهُ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَنبِطُونَهُ مِنْهُمْ. The truth of the matter would have come to the knowledge of those who are able to investigate. The scholars will tell you after the investigation. وَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَتُهُ. Had it not been for Allah's grace upon you and His mercy, meaning if Allah never sent the Prophet ﷺ upon you, if He never sent down the Quran, لَاتَّبَعْتُمُ الشَّيْطَانَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. You would have all followed shaitan except for few of them. Even today, if we don't follow the Quran, if we don't follow the guidance, most of the people, they would follow the shaitan. إِلَّا قَلِيلًا, except for very few of them. فَقَاتِلْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. O Prophet, look how Allah is telling the Prophet ﷺ, O Prophet, فَقَاتِلْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Fight in the path of Allah on your own. This is a singular. It's a singular form. It's not a plural form. O Prophet, even if nobody fights alongside you, you go on your own and fight with the disbelievers. Forget everybody. Even if all the people become hypocrites, leave them. فَقَاتِلْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. You go and fight in the path of Allah even on your own. لَا تُكَلَّفُ إِلَّا نَفْسَكَ. You are not responsible for anyone except for yourself. And from this we learn about the importance of da'wah. When we give da'wah, do not look at the results. Do not look at the results. This is the reason why a lot of people, they start something and they leave it. Oh, we haven't seen any results. So what is the point? They leave it. Are you doing it for the sake of people? You're doing it for the sake of Allah. If you're doing it for the sake of Allah, فَقَاتِلْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Go and fight in the path of Allah even if you're by yourself. And this is why some of the scholars, and I've read this in some of the biography of some of the scholars, they will sit and give dars in the masjid. Not a single person is over there. Not a single person is with them. But they would come and give the dars. Why? I'm doing it for the sake of Allah. It makes no difference whether one person comes or 100 people come. So when you do something for the sake of Allah, don't focus on the results. There has to be ikhlas and sincerity. It has to be what? Ikhlas and sincerity. If there is no ikhlas, if there is no sincerity, even if you go hundreds of people, thousands of people, your whole effort has gone down the drain. There is no point. What is the point? There is no ikhlas, no sincerity, leave it. You're wasting your time, you're wasting the time of other people as well. But if there is sincerity, it makes no difference whether you've got one person or thousands of people. So main thing is a person's ikhlas. وَحَرِّضُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Carry on persuading the believers. عَسَى اللَّهُ أَن يَكُفَّ بَأْسَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. It is likely that Allah will prevent the mischief of those who disbelieve. وَاللَّهُ أَشَدُّ بَأْسًا وَأَشَدُّ تَنْكِيلًا. Allah is strongest in might and He is severest in punishment. مَنْ يَشْفَى شَفَاعَةً حَسَنَةً يَكُنْ لَهُ نَصِيبٌ مِنْهَا. The next verse over here is about worldly intercession. Worldly intercession. For example, a person is facing some difficulty from some authority or a person, and you know this person is good. So what do? You go to the main person who is in charge and you tell him, brother, you know what? This person, I know him personally. He's a good person. He's a person of good character. And he hasn't done what you are saying. So if you can intercede, this worldly intercession, and if you're honest, you're not cheating anybody, then there is no problem. This is permissible. This is an act of good reward. But if you know this person is not good, and then you go and speak for his behalf, then this is something which is not permissible. So the worldly intercession is something which is permissible, which is an act of great virtue. مَنْ يَشْفَعْ شَفَاعَةً حَسَنَةً. Whoever intercedes for a good cause, يَكُنْ لَهُ نَصِيبٌ مِنْهَا. He will have a share from it. Allah will give him a reward for it. وَمَنْ يَشْفَعْ شَفَاعَةً. Whoever intercedes for an evil cause, and he knows that that person is not good, and is going to cause confusion, it will cause family ties, the breaking of it. يَكُنْ لَهُ كِفْلٌ مِنْهَا. He will also have a share from that sin. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ مُقِيتًا. Allah is powerful over everything. وَإِذَا حُيِّيتُم بِتَحِيَّةٍ. The next ruling over here is about greeting. About what? Greeting. How do you greet someone? Allah is giving us a rule over here. وَإِذَا حُيِّيتُم بِتَحِيَّةٍ. When you are given a greeting, فَحَيُّوا بِأَحْسَنَ مِنْهَا أَوْ رُدُّوهَا. Respond with a better one or at least the same. If someone comes to you and tells you, Assalamu alaikum, you should say something better than that or at least the same. You should say, Wa alaikum assalam, minimum, or better than that, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. If someone says Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, you should say better than that, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If someone says Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, how can you do better than that? How can you do better than that? Anybody knows? Who knows? You can't do better than that? If someone says to me, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, I will say, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is in your voice. The scholars say even this is considered better than that. So minimum do the same or better than that. This is better than that, even in your voice. Inna Allah kana ala kulli shayin hasiba. Allah is the one who takes account of everything. But all of these actions which Allah has mentioned about qital, jihad, about shafa'at, intercession, about interceding, about giving greetings, all of this is only going to benefit you if you have the tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal. If you had what? Allah's tawheed. So this is why Allah brings this next verse, Allahu la ilaha illahu. Allah, there is no God but He. So whatever actions you do it for the sake of Allah. لَيَجْمَعَنَّكُمْ. He will surely gather you إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ, on the day of judgment. لَا رَيْبَ فِي, in which there is no doubt. وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ حَدِيثًا. And who is more truthful in his word than Allah? Is there anyone more truthful than Allah Azza wa Jal? No. وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ قِيلًا وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ حَدِيثًا. There is no one more truthful than Allah. فَمَا لَكُمْ فِي الْمُنَافِقِينَ فِيَتَيْنِ. This next verse over here is about the Sahaba. The Sahabas, they had two views among the munafiqeen about them. The Sahabas had two views about the munafiqeen. Are they really believers or are they disbelievers? Some Sahabas, they thought, you know what, they are believers. If they claim to be believers, we have to consider them as believers. Others said, no, if their actions are actions of disbelief, then we have to consider them as hypocrites. So there were two groups among the Sahabas. Allah is mentioning about this over here. فَمَا لَكُمْ فِي الْمُنَافِقِينَ. What is wrong with you about the munafiqeen? فِئَتَيْنِ. You are in two groups. وَاللَّهُ أَرْكَسَهُمْ بِمَا كَسَبُوا. How can you consider them as believers when Allah has taken them back to a state of disbelief because of what they have done? Meaning because of their actions are so clear. They are doing actions of disbelief. How can you then consider them as believers? When the actions are very clear. أَتُرِيدُونَ أَن تَهْدُوا مَنْ أَضَلَّ اللَّهِ. Do you wish to guide those whom Allah has caused to go astray? Because the Sahabas, they were so eager. We want these people to become believers. Why don't they become sincere believers? Allah saying, do you want أن تهدوا من أضل الله, to guide those whom Allah has caused them to go astray? وَمَنْ يُضْلِلِ اللَّهِ, whomever Allah has caused to go astray, فَلَنْ تَجِدَ لَهُ سَبِيلًا, you will not find a way to guide them. There is no point guiding them because they are not going to come back on the straight path. وَدُّوا لَوْ تَكْفُرُونَ كَمَا كَفَرُوا. These disbelievers, these munafiqeen, they want you to become disbelievers like them. They want you to become disbelievers like they have disbelieved. فَتَكُونُونَ سَوَاءً, and you become like them. So, O Muslims, فَلَا تَتَّخِذُوا مِنْهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءَ. Don't take them as allies, as protectors. حَتَّى يُهَاجِرُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, until they migrate for the sake of Allah. Now this is the verse about migration. Don't take them as allies until they migrate. Because if they don't migrate, it means they are not sincere in their iman. فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا, if they turn away and they don't migrate, it means now they are not believers. Now what to do? فَخُذُوهُمْ Take them as prisoners. وَقُتُلُوهُمْ حَيْثُ وَجَدْتُمُوهُمْ And kill them wherever you find them. وَلَا تَتَّخِذُوا مِنْهُمْ وَلِيًّا وَلَا نَصِيرًا And don't take them as protectors nor helpers. However, in two cases, it is not permissible to fight the munafiqeen. What are those two cases? Number one, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ يَصِلُونَ إِلَىٰ قَوْمٍ بَيْنَكُمْ وَبَيْنَهُمْ مِيثَاقٌ Those who join a group between whom and you there is a peace treaty. Meaning the munafiqeen have joined a group of disbelievers and there is a peace treaty between the believers and the disbelievers. So because there is a peace treaty, it is not permissible to fight those munafiqeen. Why? Because they have joined a group who are disbelievers, but because of a peace treaty you can't fight these munafiqeen. So this is the first one. Number two, أَوْ جَاءُوكُمْ حَصِرَتْ صُدُورُهُمْ أَن يُقَاتِلُوكُمْ أَوْ يُقَاتِلُوا قَوْمَهُمْ This is when they are the munafiqeen, they don't want to harm the disbelievers, neither they want to harm the believers. So if they are not harming the believers, they are not harming the disbelievers that don't harm them. So this is the second scenario. They come to you with their hearts feeling discomfort in fighting either against you or against their own people. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَسَلَّطَهُمْ عَلَيْكُمْ فَلَقَاتَلُوكُمْ If Allah willed, He would have given them power over you, then they would have fought you. Meaning if Allah wanted, He could have put fear in if Allah wanted, these munafiqeen would have come and fought you. But Allah put fear in their hearts and now they have no courage. They're not brave enough to fight the Muslims. فَإِنِ اعْتَزَلُوكُمْ So if they turn away from you, فَلَمْ يُقَاتِلُوكُمْ And they don't fight you, وَأَلْقَوْا إِلَيْكُمُ السَّلَامَ And they offer you peace, فَمَا جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ عَلَيْهِمْ سَبِيلًا Allah has not granted you any reason to fight against them. In this case, don't fight them. سَتَجِدُونَ آخَرِينَ يُرِيدُونَ أَن يَأْمَنُوكُمْ وَيَأْمَنُوا قَوْمَهُم Now this was another group of the hypocrites. These hypocrites were saying that we are in the side of the believers. We're not going to fight the disbelievers, neither we are going to fight the believers. We're not going to fight anybody. We are not going to fight the believers, neither the disbelievers. However, these munafiqeen, they were only waiting for an opportunity. As soon as the time comes, now we are going to attack the Muslims. Until then, we're not going to say anything, we're not going to fight anybody. But once the time comes, when the opportunity comes, we will go and fight and harm the believers. Allah is mentioning about this group over here, what to do with them. سَتَجِدُونَ آخَرِينَ يُرِيدُونَ أَن يَأْمَنُوكُمْ وَيَأْمَنُوا قَوْمَهُم You will find those who want to be safe from you and safe from their own people. However, كُلَّمَا رُدُّوا إِلَى الْفِتْنَةِ Whenever they are called back to corruption, mischief, أُرْكِسُوا فِيهَا They are plunged into it. What to do? What is the ruling with regards to these people? فَإِن لَمْ يَعْتَزِلُوكُمْ If they do not stay away from you, وَيُلْقُوا إِلَيْكُمُ السَّلَامَ And they don't offer peace to you, وَيَكُفُّوا أَيْدِيَهُمْ And they don't restrain their hands, meaning if they fight you, فَخُذُوهُمْ Then seize them, take them as prisoners, وَقُتُلُوهُمْ حَيْثُ ثَقِفْتُمُوهُمْ And kill them wherever you find them, وَأُولَٰئِكُمْ جَعَلْنَا لَكُمْ عَلَيْهِمْ سُلْطَانًا مُبِينًا For we have given you a clear reason to fight against them. All of these ayahs about killing them whenever you fight them is in context. You kill them because of their behavior, of what they are doing, because of their evil intentions. So all of these ayats are in context. وَمَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ أَن يَقْتُلَ مُؤْمِنًا إِلَّا خَطَأً The next verse over here is about the scenarios of killing a believer. It is not permissible for anyone to kill a believer because of the honor Allah has given to a believer. However, there are 3-4 scenarios Allah is mentioning over here. The first scenario, وَمَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ أَن يَقْتُلَ مُؤْمِنًا إِلَّا خَطَأً A person should never kill a believer إِلَّا خَطَأً unless it was a mistake. Suppose he was driving a car and a person passed by and he killed him by mistake. This is a mistake. It was an accident. It wasn't a deliberate action. وَمَنْ قَتَلَ مُؤْمِنًا خَطَأً Anyone who kills a believer by mistake, what to do? فَتَحْرِيرُ رَقَبَةٍ مُؤْمِنَةٍ He must free a slave. You must free a slave. وَدِيَةٌ مُسَلَّمَةٌ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِ إِلَّا أَن يَصَدَّقُوا And blood money should also be paid to his family unless they waive it. You must give some compensation. For example, the victim's family will say, because you have killed our men by mistake, we want maybe 10,000 pounds in compensation. So you must give this 10,000 pounds. This is known as diyat. What is known as? Diyat means blood money. So you must pay blood money. Illa an yasaddaqu, unless they waive it off. For example, the victim's family will say, you know what, we don't want this blood money, you can keep it, no problem. We want the reward from Allah Azza wa Jal for our sabr in this world. So this is permissible. فَإِنْ كَانَ مِنْ قَوْمٍ عَدُوٍّ لَكُمْ. This is another scenario over here. If the victim, the person who you are killed, belongs to a people at war with you, meaning you are fighting the disbelievers, and this believer was amongst the group of disbelievers, and you killed him by mistake, when he was in the group of this disbeliever, what to do? What is the penalty then? وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ, and he was a believer. فَتَحْرِيرُ رَقَبَةٍ مُؤْمِنَةٍ, you must free a slave. Do you have to give diyat? No. In this scenario, there is no diyat. Diyat is only in the first scenario, not in the second one. The third scenario, وَإِنْ كَانَ مِنْ قَوْمٍ بَيْنَكُمْ وَبَيْنَهُمْ مِيثَاقٌ. If the victim belongs to a family with whom you have a peace treaty, meaning there was a peace treaty between you and the disbelievers, and this person, he was among this group of disbelievers, and there was a peace treaty between both of you. So when there is a peace treaty, you must not kill anybody from that group anyway. There's a peace treaty. Now if you kill a person, from that group, and he was a believer, then what is the ruling? فَدِيَةٌ مُسَلَّمَةٌ, you must do both. You must pay blood money إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِ, to his victim's family, وَتَحْرِيرُ رَقَبَةٍ مُؤْمِنًا, and you must also free a believing slave. فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ, what if you cannot find a believing slave? What to do? Then فَصِيَامُ شَهْرَيْنِ مُتَتَابِعَيْنِ, you must fast for 2 consecutive months. And the scholars say that this must be 2 consecutive months. If after a month you take 1 day break, you must restart the 2 consecutive months again. Unless that consecutive month, it is because of a barrier which is a shari'i udhr. For example, it comes in the month of Ramadan, then you must fast the month of Ramadan. You cannot fast on the day of Eid al-Fitr. The next day after Eid al-Fitr, you must continue immediately. Then this is considered as consecutive 2 months. Tawbatan min Allah, this is a repentance prescribed from Allah Azza wa Jal. Wa kana Allahu aliman halima, Allah is all knowing, all wise. وَمَنْ يَقْتُلْ مُؤْمِنًا مُتَعَمِّدًا, whoever kills a believer deliberately, intentionally, فَجَزَاؤُهُ جَهَنَّمُ خَالِدًا فِيهَا, his punishment is the hellfire, and he will live in it forever. وَغَضِبَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ, Allah's anger will be upon him. وَلَعَنَهُ, and Allah will curse him. وَأَعَدَّ لَهُمْ عَذَابًا عَظِيمًا, and Allah has prepared for him a great punishment. والله تعالى أعلم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلق سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله المستعان.